Hello everyone and welcome to Virtue of Tech. In today's video we are going to be taking a look at the UPerfect K118. This is an 18-inch portable monitor, the largest I've reviewed on this channel, and I immediately fell in love with it once I started using it. This is marketed as a gaming monitor, but I found it extremely useful for productivity, especially when it comes to coding in Visual Studio Code. It's tremendously useful with DaVinci Resolve over on Windows, and Windows has good touchscreen support, and setting DaVinci Resolve as a dual monitor setup, and then having the timeline and then your assets and everything just down at the bottom, and then your editing timeline over at the top just tremendously speeds up your editing. It just makes you more productive. It makes you just enjoy editing more. And yeah, it really just speeds things up. The star of the show is really the screen size, 18 inches, and this is also the touchscreen version. And right now it is running on Linux, and Linux Ubuntu doesn't have the best touchscreen support, especially with dual monitors. I've noticed Ubuntu just gets a bit confused which monitor has the touch device and which monitor is your primary and secondary display, and then yeah, it gets a bit booky. But on Windows it works a lot better. The highlight here is the screen is 18 inches, 2560 by 1600, 144 Hz through a Type-C DisplayPort Alt, or it's 120 Hz if you're using the mini HDMI port. Compared to a 16-inch monitor, you can see the size difference. If I just put it like so, quite a bit larger. You do get more screen estate here. I thought 18 inches is really pushing it when it comes to portability, but nope. If we unplug this over here, it's ultra slim, as you can see here. Bit heavy, especially on this side over here. It is one of the heaviest portable monitors, but considering the screen size, that is to be expected. The included kickstand tucks in on the back, and it offers, it goes completely flat. And the ports are on the side over here. You do have a micro USB in. Maybe this is for peripherals or USB devices, unsure on that. But you've also got the on-screen display menu button, and then you've got the power button, and then you've also got a headphone jack right over here. However, this headphone jack is a bit recessed in, and I found out there's not much space. A lot of headphones won't actually plug in. Something like this is a very thin, just a aux cable. It's very thin. It fits in, but you really need to just force it in there. You can see here, it's a lack of space over here. But another headphone and a lot of headphones, right? So another aux cable. Whereas I've got another aux cable here, and a lot of aux cables are not super slim like this one here. This is standard size really. On this end, you've got a right angle connector as well, and this, you can't plug this in. And I do have headphones. I've actually, I don't have them in hand right now, but during testing, I couldn't plug them in, so I couldn't really check the audio output, the sound quality through the headphone jack to see if it's any good, because they won't plug in. The nice thing about having these recessed ports though is that you can completely hide the cables if you wanted to. So UPerfect do sell these adapters over here, and it's just goes in and then it just routes it through the back. So if you plug one of these in like so, now your port plugs in through here, so the cable can just stick out through the back. So if I just show you this in practice, you can see here now the cable is plugged in and it's routed through the back like so, and it's on. You can't see the cable, and it is plugged in. So yeah, this is really cool if you want dual monitors, or you want to stack these side by side, or if you just want to keep your desk really tidy and you don't want any cables poking out the side. Being a larger 18-inch screen, you may just want to use this as your main display or as a more permanent fixture on your desk. You can power it through a single cable. However, that does depend whether your laptop or mini PC or device can support it. Also, if you do want a video signal coming out your Type-C port, you need to make sure your device supports DisplayPort out through the Type-C port. I'll say the monitor can use up to around 15 watts of power. However, it does come with a power brick bundled in as well. I'm from the UK, and I got a 30-watt power plug also in the box. It also came with some base screws for the base mount on the back, as well as a Type A to Type C, Type C to Type C, and then Type C to Type C cable. It does also come with a HDMI to a micro HDMI cord. However, it is a bit short, shorter than I would have liked. So I am using my own slightly longer cable so I can plug it into my computer, into my PlayStation and whatnot. These adapters are extra. If you are purchasing it on the UPerfect website, you can just add them in on the website. It does show where to get them. But you can purchase a sleeve separately. So if you do want to take this with you, there you go, you can. This is also an optional accessory. And then you've also got a pocket over here for all your cables, which is separated from the display itself. UPerfect do claim that it has a peak brightness of about 400 nits, which means that, I know a lot of laptops now, more serious laptops do go up to about 500 nits. Some of them are averaging at around 400 nits. So with this, you don't have to worry about the portable monitor being dimmer than your laptop display or even your computer display. A lot of monitors still are typically around 300 nits max brightness, so this can actually keep up. In terms of colors, colors are okay. I was able to match it to my monitor, to my Acer, Concept Creators monitor. I was able to make it close enough where if I am using it as a secondary display for editing videos, the colors look okay. The on-screen display does let you adjust things like the brightness, contrast, DCR, and sharpness, and then you got your color temperature as well, and then your color gamut, red, green, and blue. I did adjust mine slightly. I just boosted the red to 53, the green to 54, and then the blue to 54. By default, it says 50, 50, 50, and that just gave me slightly nicer colors, made the white a bit whiter, and just gave it some more, I guess, saturation. It's not the most feature-packed on-screen display that I've seen. So if you're serious about colors and color accuracy, this doesn't let you really dial things in. But the displays, the colors actually do look good as they are, and the tuning that you do get, you can make it look pretty good. So depending on whether you do have a very color accurate laptop or whether your colors are a bit washed out on your monitor, you can match it, and that's something that I do like to do, especially if you are using it as a secondary display. You don't want a laptop or your main monitor and then the colors just a bit of a mismatch. It doesn't look good, especially if you are using it for imaging or web page surfing where even the whites look a bit off. So it's nice to see that you can dial things in to just try and get it as similar as possible to your primary display. What I've really loved about this monitor is the size. It's bigger than 16 inches, bigger than what I've been used to using and what I've been regularly using. And the touchscreen as well works surprisingly well on Windows. This is a dual monitor setup I've got over here. I've got my portable monitor, 18 inches right at the bottom, and then my main display over at the top. And this has really helped boost my productivity, especially as it almost feels like I've got two devices right in front of me. And what I mean by that is I've got Visual Studio Code open over here, and I know most of you are probably using it on Mac or on Linux. However, touchscreen support's not that good there, so I wanted to do this demo over here. And what you can see is my mouse is over at the top, right over here, and then I can scroll on a web page. I've got Chrome open here, and then when I move my mouse is back where it is, so the mouse isn't actually jumping around. This is something you can't do on Linux. It's something you can do on Windows. To make it work like this, you do want to set the portable monitor as the primary display, and then set the main monitor as your secondary display. Windows is still a bit buggy when it comes to this, but it does work surprisingly well. I also wanted to give a demonstration of this. This is DaVinci Resolve 20, and you can see here I do have it set from workspace to dual screen, and then I've got it on full screen timeline, and then primary display is the bottom one. And you can dial things up, change around your workspace how you like it, but what it means is I've got my main display, I've got the huge timeline over there, and I can, I can clip things. I can, crop things, clip it up, separate it. I can have multiple timelines, mess around with the audio, do all of that stuff. And I can preview down at the bottom as well. So if I want to play, I can see what the content is. I can, I've got a lot of control over it. It really speeds up editing because you don't have to keep opening different tabs, different windows, moving things around. It just keeps it all in one place. I did, however, find that unlike if you've got two separate applications open, with this, if my mouse is over here and then I touch here, the mouse moves it off. So that is a bit annoying, but touchscreen does work. You can see here, I can shuffle through things. I can go to Fusion if I wanted to, go back to Edit, Delivery. Some tabs don't support multiple monitor mode, so Delivery doesn't, so it just cuts out. But I can go back into Edit. And if I really wanted to, I can go full screen as well. There you go. So as much screen as possible is now the editor. And in terms of color accuracy, this is what I was meaning. I did manage to tune it up, dial it up, so that my secondary monitor, the UPerfect K118, looks as close to the color profile as my main Acer Creators display. So I'm quite happy with the colors. It feels like I'm using the same monitor basically. It doesn't just feel like it's something widely different. When I downloaded Monitarian, I did notice that the UPerfect 18-inch K118 does not have DDC support. So you can see here I can adjust the brightness just from within Windows itself for the top display, but for the UPerfect one, I simply can't. Most portable monitors do support this, so don't know what's going on there. I did look at the on-screen display as well. There's no such setting. I know on this Acer display, it's actually a setting, DDC, on the on-screen display that you can turn on and off. And it's really useful, especially if you do have multiple monitors. The audio quality is actually okay. It sounds okay. When I was listening to music, I do sort of prefer the music playing through, either earphones or just through my phone's built-in speaker. There's no equalizer, so you can't play around with the sound much, at least not from within the device itself. However, the 3.5mm audio jack, if you've got headphones that do squeeze in. I'm going to be doing a quick guide on how to enable real-time audio monitoring on the Fifthline AM6, and this should also work on the... If I just mute the audio now, you can actually have a look at the viewing angles. It is an IPS panel, but it does have a glass screen, which is a glossy screen, so it is quite reflective. If you've got lights directly in front of you, and I can actually show you this, you will see a lot of glare. So this is, I think, a 6-watt light, and then you can basically just totally see it at the top monitor. It's more diffuse, and then the bottom monitor. So I have locked the ISO on my camera to 25,000, so you can see what the viewing angles are like. And it's an IPS panel, so it's all really good up and down as well. You can see here, absolutely no issues. So I've got this plugged in now into a PlayStation, and if I just go into display settings, it does support 1440p. So you are getting 2560 by 1600, and it's also got support for 120 Hz as well. You do have support for 120 Hz as I was showing here. ALLM doesn't actually work, not supported, and then variable refresh rate, at least on the PlayStation. Yeah, your TV doesn't support it. And then HDR does work. You can set it to always on. And you can see right now colors look super washed out, but I have found that colors on this is actually perfectly usable. So if I just go into the on-screen display HDR mode, just turn it on. There you go. And now everything looks okay. Everything looks cool. And the colors all look fine as well. What I did notice is you can't adjust the brightness, contrast, or play around with any of that from the monitor itself. And then if you want to mess around with that, you've got to do it from the calibration tool built into the PlayStation settings, display settings. And on Windows, you've also got the HDR calibration tool as well, if you do want to dial things up. Gaming, if I just pop up Apex Legends, what you would see is this is a 16:10 aspect ratio, but the games, at least on a PlayStation, is only 16:9. So games on a PlayStation, they're only 16:9, so you would get black bars at the top and bottom. However, you can go into the on-screen display and just do wide, so it would just stretch the image if you want as much screen as possible and you don't mind the image just being stretched slightly. As a secondary display, especially if you are working or if you are just multitasking, you can just have your main display at the top over there, and then just have this on the side just as your gaming monitor next to your laptop or your primary display. Monitor does take about 15 watts worth of energy, so 5V. I don't believe it supports power delivery, but this does mean that you can power it off most standard USB ports on computers and on laptops. However, I did notice on some devices it may just not get enough power and then just start flashing or restarting if you can't output at least 15 watts. On the on-screen display, you do have a power saving mode, so if your device can't fully power it, you can turn that on, and that will just reduce the maximum brightness to a lower level. And when you just plug it in, it will just start with the brightness that's a bit lower, so you're less likely to run into power problems. I haven't played this game in a long time. Let's see how I do. And this is actually my first time playing in maybe even a year. But the map's the same as I remember it. Not sure what this does. I am playing on a console, so I'm assuming there is some aim assistance. Don't have headphones on either, so it's difficult to know where they are. Wow. Yeah, he totally carried us. And it is running at 120 Hz. However, this game's only running at 1080p. I don't know if there's something I can do to change that. Yeah, so I just looked into it. This game just doesn't support 1440p with HDR at 120 Hz. So that's why it's running at 1080p 120 Hz with HDR. If I want to run it at 1440p, then I've got to turn off that HDR. But yeah, as a HDR display, it does perform well. It performs well, and HDR looks good on this as well, or as good as it can do. So my thoughts on this really, really gorgeous monitor is it's the kind of monitor that you'd love to have as more of a permanent fixture on your desk, with the ability to just take it with you if you're moving around. I think for content creators, maybe even filmographers as well, this is a really cool addition. Just because it's 400 nits, so it's bright enough for indoor use, and it's portable, and it's big, and the touchscreen can come in handy as well. If you are interested in purchasing this, I would have affiliate links in the description down below, as well as a UPerfect coupon code that you can just enter for some money off. For a more detailed review, you can check out our website. I will have a review up soon, and there's a new version of our website coming soon as well that just makes it more beautiful, makes it more easier, more intuitive to just go through, filter through, and just read about specs, about opinions, thoughts, and reviews for tech, as well as events and more media-focused engagement content that's going to be out soon.